What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Around the Table Sports. So this week we found out who was declaring for the NFL draft and who was staying, and we need to get into it because some teams lost a ton and other teams are coming back almost completely unfazed. But before we get into that, I have a question for all of you, the viewers. Drop down in the comments and let me know what two teams, first off, what team do you think lost the most talent? And second off, which team are you the most excited for going into next season because of who they retained? Can't wait to get down in the comments and interact with y'all. I love doing that. And likes and comments go a long ways in helping YouTube channels like mine get picked up by the YouTube algorithm. Guys, we are almost at our 1,000 subscriber mark, so if you have not subscribed, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, so that way anytime I'm uploading, you know, because I upload almost daily talking about college football and you don't want to miss it, and we'd love to have you along for the journey. So like, comment down below, and let's jump right into it, because this first winner is somebody I've been very critical of this year, and if you've followed the channel, and if you've listened to the podcasts, you'll know I've been critical of them. And I hope that this isn't coming off as overly critical, but I hope to make my case. First, the winner is LSU. Now, LSU lost a lot to the draft the past 2 years, but the players they lost this year to the draft, the biggest one being Ja'Marr Chase, he didn't play this season, so LSU got a taste of life after Ja'Marr Chase this season, and the biggest positive for LSU is that they have 3 different quarterbacks that have starting experience within the SEC. That's going to be a major advantage when a lot of the SEC is going to have some shakeup as to who they're able to return. Now, the bad thing for LSU is you're still without a defensive coordinator. You don't know which position you're going to go in there, and you've lost a bunch of coordinators this offseason because of the instability this season. You didn't finish great, but you finished better than I think a lot of people thought you would, considering how bad you were this season. So while LSU, I'm not thinking that it's going to be back to national championship form, you will be much more competitive this year because you already have an advantage of 3 quarterbacks understanding what SEC play is like, and your non-conference opponents are very friendly this next season. So LSU, I think, is a winner that we cannot be ignored, because they have a very early look at who they are, and most of the guys they put out on the field last year, they are returning. My next winner is Georgia, and I think this goes without saying. Georgia lost some guys on the secondary, Stevenson transferring and Richard LeCounte going to the draft, so the defense for Georgia will look different. They'll have to do some different defensive formations, but Kirby Smart's a defensive-minded guy, Georgia's a defensive-minded team, and they're Georgia. They recruit at the top of the nation. So yeah, it's going to hurt replacing a guy like LeCounte. It'd hurt anywhere in the nation. But it is easier to do it at a Ohio State, a Clemson, an Alabama, and a Georgia when they're known for just churning out these defensive guys. Now, here's where Georgia needs to be very excited, as they return almost the entirety of the offense, with Zamir White coming back, and I don't know that he was ever going to leave, but they return their entire running back room, as well as JT Daniels. And JT Daniels was just throwing for 300 yards like it was going out of style. I understand one game he had 299, but if we're really not counting that as an impressive performance, we're splitting hairs here, and I just don't think that we're being very genuine to the conversation at hand. Georgia is definitely a winner coming into the offseason. They return a ton of talent, and the talent they did lose is going to be next to impossible to replace a guy like LeCounte, but it's Georgia, and that is your bread and butter. So if there was ever a position to lose a Richard LeCounte, it would be on the defense, which is what you do. So I'm very excited for Georgia. My next one, Iowa State, and this one was a little bit difficult. I've been hard on Iowa State this year, specifically on Brock Purdy, because he was phenomenal in 2019, and I think that he really regressed in 2020. Now, to be fair, it's not like he had the best weapons on the outside to throw to, but he didn't have the worst. Iowa State runs a pure scheme, and they're always just very disciplined. But the reason I think you'd be so excited as an Iowa State fan is you just got to the Big 12 championship. You return Brock Purdy, but you return your best player in running back Breece Hall. Breece Hall is probably the first rounder on this team. Brock Purdy could play his way into the first round, but you bet your bottom dollar Breece Hall is going to be a first rounder next year. A phenomenal running back that I thought was going to go into the draft this year, but hey, I know Iowa State fans are very happy to have him back. Why is it also good, Iowa State? Because your real competition in the Big 12 right now is Texas and OU. A lot of other teams are building, and Texas, in my opinion, is just 1 year off from really being able to supplement themselves in where they should be. We'll get into that in a little bit, and I hope to explain myself, Texas fans, because you know from the videos I've put out here recently, I'm actually very high on your future, where I was very critical of it at the beginning of this year. Now I'm very high on it. My last two winners. First, OU. OU's getting a bunch of talent back. I mean, an absolute slew of talent back on both sides. Kennedy Brooks returns. He's averaging well over 8 yards a carry, and he just opted out last season, and OU is going to be losing a running back to the draft. But when you return a guy like Kennedy Brooks, you're not losing. You're not winning, but you're kind of in a status quo situation. But I think you could actually argue that in this case, it's a win because of how talented Kennedy Brooks is. Look, another big win is you have another year of Spencer Rattler, and it's going to be his first full year kind of in normalcy, I guess we can even say, because he was the starter for 1 year now. So he has those first year jitters off of his back, and I expect his decision making to be better. His talent is unquestionable, and I'm not trying to say he has bad decision making. Please don't take that for what I mean. Rattler has all the ability in the world, but he made young mistakes. That's what I mean. And that's not unsurprising, right? Like, we'd be wowed if he didn't. And there's good reason why he's the odds-on Heisman favorite. I have to agree with that just because of the talent he has. But we'd be being disingenuous if we didn't say that he had young mistakes. So getting all of that back is huge. And then you look at the offensive side of the ball and you see all the returning receivers they have, with a Mims, with a Theo Weiss. I mean, you got to be happy if you're an OU fan. And my last winner is Ohio State. Ohio State maybe has the biggest returning player of Chris Olave coming back, but they also were gifted a gem, or two gems, I should say, in Haskell Garrett and Tyreek Smith. Now, sure, when you lose Justin Fields, it's hard to really say you're a winner, but at the same time, anybody familiar with their quarterback room knows that they are incredibly loaded there, and they will be able to replace Justin Fields, maybe not with a guy that is Justin Fields with that prowess, but with a guy that is very capable of continuing the proud legacy that Ohio State has and the offense that they want to run. I have no doubt that this is going to be huge, and whoever they have throwing the ball, look, getting a guy like Olave back just gives more credence to whoever is going to be quarterback is going to be able to get into the system much easier because of a playmaker like Olave. He looks to maybe even be the Biletnikoff Award. He'll be in the conversation for the Biletnikoff. Chris Olave will next season, so that's huge. Now let's get into my losers, right? Because these are a little bit more fun. My first loser is Florida, and I don't think that this is very close. You lose your entire offense, right? Sure, you get Bowman transferring in, you get your running back coming back, but you didn't feature running backs in a traditional fashion this season, and that's kind of what Dan Mullen does. Dan Mullen really likes to get his running backs going in the passing game, and Bowman will absolutely be huge in that aspect. He will provide a much-needed lift to this Florida offense next season, and it's a real shame they didn't have him this season, but you lose Pitts, you lose Kadarius Toney, and you lose Trask. There is no winning there because it's not like you have a quarterback on the back end that you're all just elated about. And that right there is very hard. You lose some of the best offensive players in the nation without a real path at replacing them. So Florida is a loser. The USC Trojans. So this is a good and a bad thing. USC fans, first, be happy that you're developing players and sending them into the draft. USC has a ton of early departures. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the most in FBS. A lot of those are going to be very, very impactful, but they do return the best wideout in the Pac-12, as well as former five-star Brew McCoy with Slovis. So USC looks to be in a good position because the Pac-12 is going to be interesting. Oregon looks to try and improve upon the season they had. But as it stands, USC, you still have to like where you are because you just nabbed the number one player in the nation in Corey Foreman, and you do return some guys on offense that you can be excited about, but you did lose a ton of guys to the draft. Amon-Ra St. Brown is gone, and so it's that kind of stuff right there that it's very hard. I'd feel good about losing these guys because it means you're getting back to the USC Trojans of old, but at the same time, it is just very tough. My last two losers. First, UNC. UNC lost the best 1-2 punch in the nation at running back. I don't think that there's a real way to look at it and say that they won. Now, look, you still have Howell, and you still have a program that's trending in a very positive direction with Mac Brown, but so much of their identity was based around this run game. So much of what Howell was able to accomplish was because defenses have to be kept honest with the 1-2 punch that was North Carolina's offense. When you lose that, I think that it's going to be a rough season. I don't think Howell's going to have a bad season. I don't think North Carolina will be bad, but I think that what we saw against A&M was a very real look at who North Carolina is without their 1-2 punch. I expect that they'll be able to supplement something with a longer off season, be able to get some things figured out, but I don't think that North Carolina will be as deadly as a potential for deadliness as they were in this year. I know that they had kind of a disappointing season, but their potential to be deadly was incredible this year. And last but not least, my last loser. And for those of you still here, please hear me out when I say this. The last loser is the Alabama Crimson Tide, but conversely, the last winner is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Let me explain. I don't think we could sit here and really say seriously that the Crimson Tide are winning while losing Jalen Waddle, Alex Leatherwood, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, Mac Jones, Patrick Surtain, and Dylan Moses. All of those guys are huge starters, not to mention Landon Dickerson. There's no way to look at that and really say, we're winning, unless you're the University of Alabama and that's become the norm, and you simultaneously get news that guys like Fedarian Mathis, LeBrian Ray, Chris Allen, and maybe the biggest impact in the SEC returning, Brian Robinson, for running back at Alabama, and he really looks to add on a ton of cachet to his NFL draft stock. He is a really talented running back, make no mistake about it. He looks to take over. So Alabama's in this weird hiatus because you lost all these guys, and I can't say that you won, but I also can't say that you lost when you also returned such huge talent on the defensive side, as well as Chris Owens on the offensive line, which is really perfect. Alabama's in a weird state because they lost so much meaningful talent, but so much meaningful talent chose to come back. And so that's why I say they lost, but they also won. And so because of that, Alabama fans, I would feel just fine if I was you. You look to replace Mac Jones with former #1 quarterback in the nation, Bryce Young, whose talent is endless. You look to replace a guy like Jalen Waddle and a guy like Devontae Smith with a Javon Baker and a Jai Hall, a Ja'Cory Brooks, a JoJo Earl, a Christian Leary. The nuts recruiting that is going on at Alabama will surely supplement the talent, and I think it's something we should look forward to seeing what this offense looks like. But guys, as I said, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment down below letting me know who your winners and losers are. I think one team before I go that was very close for making this was Texas, but I think that even though Texas made a lot, and I would consider them on the losing end, I think Texas gained enough in a Steve Sarkisian and has enough prospectus left, and with the way the quarterback played in the bowl game, I don't think I could faithfully consider them losers. I think the outlook is too good. That's it. See ya.